Good morning and welcome to show number 60. It is the 60th episode of Day 4 with Frank Scalish.
What are we going to do when we get to 100?
I don't know. We had a pretty good show for the 50th.
We're going to do some crazy stuff on the 100.
You gave away a set of Speed End Juniors for the 59th show. No giveaways for today's show.
No giveaways.
But you are giving away a lot of... Yeah, there you go. We're on the same page with that, Frank. I'm looking at the picture, the screen of us, and I look ridiculous. I'm wearing shorts and a vest, and it just occurred to me, that's an awkward combo, Frank.
You are prepared for if the weather turns inclement or if it gets nice.
It is that time of the year. Shorts and a vest. That might be the first time that I've ever done that, and I'm looking at myself in the screen, realizing I've got to roll with that for the next hour plus of Day 4 with Frank. But hey, no worries.
No worries. Speaking about dressing and the weather, you know how volatile the weather gets up north.
Yep.
You guys this year experienced some of that weather fluctuation down where you guys live this spring. Okay. Well, up north, it's like the norm. So one time in a land far away, but not so far from here, I was fishing a tournament in April, and this was before you could just get on your phone app and hit the weather report and see the clouds coming in, see the weather, see the wind direction. We didn't have that back then. And so I hit the trail, and the lake that we were fishing was about 4 hours from home. And I didn't stay there like a moron. I decided I would just, get up at 1 a.m. and drive down there. So I do that. I get down to this lake, and for the days prior to this tournament, because we talked about clothing. So days prior to this event, it had been in the mid 70s.
Beautiful.
For a couple of days. Beautiful. Just beautiful. So I go down there with, it's going to be 70 degrees. You know what I mean? I'll wear jeans, bring a pair of shorts.
Plus you're leaving from home, so it's not like you spent a lot of time packing. You just got up, threw some stuff together.
100%. I'm basically short sleeve shirt, a pair of jeans, and a hoodie. Off I go. I get down there, and the weather turns, and it gets to be like 27 degrees, sleety, snowy rain, and I froze my ass off, man. I had none of the clothes I needed, and it was the most miserable event that I have ever participated in my life, and it was nobody's fault but my own.
I feel like everyone does that once.
Once. You're darn right. One time. And then never again.
What did you guys do before? Like, I'm not like dating you, but I'm dead serious. How did you guys prepare, like, on the trail when you're traveling places before the internet? Before that, did you look in the paper? How'd you know what the weather was going to be for that next week?
Yeah, you would just call a tackle shop by the lake, call someone down by the lake, and then you bring clothes for every single situation.
You just say, hey, what's the weather supposed to be like for the next week?
Yeah, and then they tell you, but then you can't take it for face value. So what would happen was I would pack my vehicle, and I would literally have clothes for every type of weather scenario, and it takes you hours to pack because you have to pack everything. You know what I mean? You can't take anything for granted. Like in the summer, what do you need? A rain gear. You know what I mean? But in the spring and fall, oh no.
Where most of the tournaments are in the spring, that March, April, May, especially get up there. Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about that because, I can look at it and say, oh, it's going to be 12 miles an hour out of the east at 11, but I can fish here because it's all, I never thought that was all kind of, you had to just fly by the seat of your pants or call weather. No, you didn't have a cell phone.
This is money right here. This little device is money. I live and die on my weather apps.
What would you do in the Great Lakes? I mean, you fished that way before there was like cell phones and stuff. How would you know if something was coming in or the wind was going to kick up in the afternoon? Or
you would look at local weather forecasts. They kind of give you a prediction on television. The TV.
Yeah. Was it black and white back then? No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's two people sitting behind a glass screen talking to each other, like the Flintstones.
We would gather around the radio, the sound box.
We would hover around the sound box.
Start a fire for warmth.
Thanks for that.
No, that's something I don't think that crosses a lot of people's mind.
Yeah, no, it's so easy.
Well, then on top of it, you get out there, and now the only way I can get back on the Great Lakes is with my breadcrumb trail, my Navionics app and all that. So you had no idea what was coming up. The weather wasn't going up. You can't see the shore in any direction.
No, I had every bass boat I had before the advent of GPSs. I had compasses on my
little
boat.
ball, half ball that you glued to the driver's side,
right by my shifter arm.
So you would know that, like, if you were out on a rock pile 10 miles offshore, that you needed to head southeast to get back, and then you would see the break wall and kind of know from there.
Correct. Always. I always had a compass on me. And the irony is I never got lost on the lake, even when I couldn't see shoreline anymore. I never got lost. One time I did with my father. We went out and we were actually walleye fishing. And it was slick mirage flat, which almost never happens. Slick mirage flat, fog bank drops in, poof. You can't hardly see the front of the bass boat. And we were so far out, and I literally didn't know which way to go. Did not know which way to go because this particular boat I had just gotten, and I hadn't put the compass on it yet.
Oh, man.
And so my dad's like, what are we going to do, hotshot? And I'm like, I'm going to make giant, huge monster circles until I find a depth change. And once I find the depth change, I'm going to start circling from there until I find another depth change. And then I'm going to keep going as the depths get shallower. I'm going to keep following it. And that's and that's how I wound up getting us back.
Do you have a serious question? Were you had a graph or did you have a flasher?
I had a paper graph and a flasher.
So you would then determine the depth with a paper graph and a flasher, and that worked.
Yeah.
Dude, that's freaking smart. That might be your best story you've ever heard.
I don't know. It was not smart to get lost out there, but I not only did I get us back, I got us back within 200 yards of where we launched.
Wow. And couldn't see the front of the boat.
No, it was unbelievable. I've been in some really bad stuff on the Great Lakes, including the Buffalo tournament that we talk about a lot
off and on.
That's the only time I was ever worried.
They'd have never done that in today's bass fishing world. You guys would not have launched.
No. Well, we didn't. It wasn't a tournament. We were walleye. Oh, you mean in Buffalo?
On the Buffalo.
Oh, yeah. No, we would have never put a boat.
There would not have been a boat in the water.
No way. No way. There's no way. But that fog drop that day with my dad was the first time and probably one of the only times that I was ever really nervous on Lake Erie. Because I told my dad, I said, theoretically, we shouldn't go anywhere. You know what I mean? We should drop an anchor and we should wait till the fog lifts.
Because you know where you are right now.
Correct.
You have no idea if you just start driving where you're going to be when it lifts.
No, because I could have easily been in Canada.
Yeah. And no mapping. You have no mapping.
No. I could have easily been in Canada or I could have easily been headed to Buffalo. You know what I mean? I could have put myself in a position of really being caught out there because you can't see shore, for one. For another, when the fog dropped, you had no way of knowing anything once the fog dropped. You know what I'm saying? So it was really stupid. It was really stupid.
I just thought of a new idea. You get these new guys, and you take like a Jordan Lee or a Jacob Wheeler or a Justin Lucas. Guys like, age group who grew up with the GPS and all that.
Mm-hmm.
and you turn off all their stuff and you put them at one end of a big lake that they've never been on. You give them a paper map, and you have a little scavenger hunt, and you have little rubber duckies that are put throughout the lake at different creeks and stuff, and they just have to use their paper map to find where these things are, and you record how it is for guys that have never had to navigate with a paper map.
Oh yeah.
To see how they navigate a
do.
lake they've never been to before.
Yeah, dude, that would be fantastic.
I feel like some would be way
seriously.
better than you thought, and others would be totally lost. I would be lost. I have gotten lost with a I got lost in Florida. I literally shut down in the middle of Toho, and Toho said, and he said, "What are we doing here?" And I said, "I'll be honest with you." I said, "I came out of this pig trail here." I said, and I had on my graph, you can click it and it'll like pause and it won't go to where you're live. And I said, "I have absolutely no clue where we are." So I had to shut down, get the map back, and look and go, "All right." I said, I just was disoriented because there's a pig trail. Is that what they're called? Pig trails? Airboat trail. It was an airboat trail. I hadn't been down, but I'd seen a bunch of guys running it, so I knew I could. So I ran it, and then when I got out on the other side, I like went right, and I should have gone left. I was disoriented, and I was like, "That's not good."
Yeah, no, that's not good. That's hilarious.
All right, we got a really good show today, Uncle Frank. Over the course of the past year and a half, you've talked about all of the different things that you have created in your studio, your laboratory, your tackle room, your creation den, the basement, whatever you want to call it. But it's where a lot of the things that you see on LureNet, a lot of your creations, personal creations, things you use. This is kind of the genesis of it, where it all comes out, and people have requested. A lot of people have requested. Now I feel like
Visuals.
Yeah. I always like those videos where they're like, I get a lot of questions about what rod I'm using. I'm like, no one's asked you about that anyway. But there have been a lot of requests to see not just your tackle room, but where it goes down in the Scalish household when it comes to lure creation and design. So you have sent that. You have some props with it, and that on this day 4 is what we are going to get into. So set it up before we get into the visuals, like kind of what you have in the house that allows you to do what you do.
Okay, I have a full basement. It's not a finished basement because this house was built in 1914. So they didn't realize that a basement could actually be another place to live. So they built these basements essentially for storage. Or in some cases, they're old coal rooms when the houses were heated by coal. So when I got this house, I actually they had a small room in the basement, and I believe the person that owned it first built it for a dark room to develop photography. So I took that room and I converted it to an airbrush where I can paint lures and tie my flies. Now originally I didn't have my compressor and my airbrush stuff in there. All I had was fly tying and lure building materials, and that's how it started. And then it morphed into painting and building stuff. So now I have saws and plastic sheets where I cut bills out and everything down there. And then the other part of the basement, which I didn't take a picture of, which I probably should have because it's kind of cool. I have pegboard all over the place, and I have about 3,000 pegs full of various types of tackle and stuff.
Like prototypes, out of production stuff you use, that's coming down the pipeline, everything.
Yeah, the pegs are fishable tackle that I use, and then my prototypes and lures that I'm building or developing are in the other room, the little room.
All right. So do you want to just go ahead and get into photo number 1 already?
I mean, we can, yeah. Well, because we're going to find so many little wormholes to go down when we start
Yeah.
looking at stuff. So
This will be a good show for the iTunes listeners. Might also be one that you want to listen to or watch on YouTube for it. But a lot of the descriptive, a lot of the little things, if you are have been inspired after the Vice episode, the fly tying Vice episode and
right,
stuff, if you're inspired to do some of this on your own, Frank said he was going to kind of point out some of the basics, some of the things you could, hey, if you want to clean,
right,
this is how you get paint off of a lure. This is how you fix this is the stuff you use if you have a hole in the side of a balsa bait. Just little stuff like that for a
right.
couple $100 you can get a little cubby hole of your own. You don't have to go full out.
No, and it's not very expensive. It won't be very expensive if you wanted to build something. The most we'll talk about
Okay.
what's
This is the
important.
first photo right here. This
Okay,
is this is a corner of explain what we're looking at here.
Okay, so what you're seeing there is that sink actually works. It has running water. It works. Um, the I have that there because if I have to wash something down or whatever. Right now, I've got an old spray card in there and some Ziploc bags where I put, paper towels that I've put
Mm-hmm.
solvent on and to wipe things down. Um, but that sink is workable, and I wanted it right next to where I'm working at in case I spill something or whatever. I have to get it off. What you see on the shelf above that, the big bottles, that's reducer, airbrush cleaner. That's all that stuff is right there. The last two white bottles at the end where you towards the wall. No, the other end. Yeah, right there. Those are types of clear coat. That's all waterborne. Everything on these shelves is waterborne.
What are the two? Where there's oil, there's water and oil based?
Solvent based and water. I started painting with water a little over a year ago, only because of the fact that to be in a short enclosed room like that with solvent can be problematic. If your vent system isn't operating efficiently, it can be problematic.
We're smelling what you're cooking.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
Literally, back in the old days, I would literally run outside sick to my stomach from it, even though I have a vent down there and wore a mask.
Yeah. I would say in my limited experience being around the guys who have the brushes and the airbrushes and all that, it is almost like a boat engine when you invest in this. Like, you have to maintain it, make sure your stuff is clean. You can't just leave it. And all the guys that I know who painted have seen them paint, spend almost just as much time cleaning, drying, making sure their equipment is ready to go as they do actually painting it. Very meticulous about making sure your stuff is clean.
Has to be. So here, let's do this. Before we scroll up the frame to show all the paints.
Yep.
Let's go to the two airbrushes, which I actually have here. I have them here, so I can show them on screen live. So my main tool of choice is an Iwata Eclipse. And this is a siphon. This is a siphon feed. So the cup is on the bottom. The air goes through. This is the front of the gun. The airflow goes through the gun, and it sucks the paint up the siphon tube, and then out the gun. And it comes apart real easy. It just detaches.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Iwata Eclipse. Okay, this is the gun I paint with most of the time. So here, this back section will adjust my paint flow. So if I tighten it up, it doesn't move back so far. As I loosen it, I can move it back. And then if I loosen it all the way, I can move it all the way back.
Those can be a little pricey, can't they?
Yeah, very. That's paint flow. To get air through the gun, you push down on it. Push down on the button. So if you're a new guy learning how to paint, this is called a double action airbrush. Okay. The trick is to know how much airflow you want and how much paint flow you want coming out. So everything is controlled by your finger. All right. That's how you control all your flow.
Okay, so that's how much paint.
How much paint, how much air you're pushing through the gun.
And I'm not kidding. That's almost like that's a big part of the artistry on it is having
yeah. It's critical part actually.
It's like playing an instrument almost. It's almost like you have like a saxophone or something in your hand that everything you do has a reaction to it.
That's correct. And so it's very meticulous. I can make microscopic dots with this. You can do a lot with an airbrush. So what I tell people is, if you're going to begin with this, like my first airbrush was a single action Badger, which Badger also makes double actions and very expensive air guns, but my first one was a very inexpensive air gun. Single action. I painted a lot of lures in the beginning.
What's single action mean?
Push button, paint comes out.
That's it.
There's no adjustments of any kind.
Okay. Is that what you would recommend if you're like, hey, I want to try painting something? What is the okay?
No, I don't recommend that. That's you can do it. I painted a lot of lures that are still sold today in the stores with that single action gun. You have way more control with a double action, way more control. So now what my single action is now used for, I have big tips on them to let heavy material through them, and I use those to blow on heavy metal flake or clear coat if I'm going to airbrush clear on them, so I don't have to run heavy metallics and clear coat through my good guns. Not that it would hurt them, it won't. It just makes the cleaning process much longer. The other gun I use is a Sodograph 4. Same type of deal. It's a siphon feed. I have it's a double action. This back button controls flow. This button right here, this thing here, will control my needle, so I can loosen it up and slide my needle out. Now here's what happens when you do that. Right now with a single action gun, a double action gun, if I just push down on this, it's going to blow only air out of the gun. It's not until you start moving the trigger back that the paint comes out.
So you're drawing the paint out of the
you're drawing the paint out. So like if I start painting a bait, before I blend or before I want to add another color, I just push the button down, let the air flow through, dry the bait with the air.
Okay.
And then I can do something else. So, because sometimes I'll have both guns going at the same time. So I'll have one color in one gun, one color in another gun. And so I'll lay something down, and maybe I'll have pearls in this one and color in this one. I'll lay some color down, blow it off, flash it, let it dry, pick up the other gun and lay my pearl down, and then same thing, just push the button down, flash it dry, and then move on. So that's the guns. Okay, those are the air guns.
Now, are those advanced guns, Frank? Like are those like the Stellas of the air gun world, I guess, or the Mitaniums or whatever?
Yeah, they are. And actually, quite frankly, these are expensive, but they're not the most expensive out there. They're probably right around 160.
Oh, okay. So less than a high-end reel.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Now, there's another air gun I'm looking at that's a lot more money. And I want it because it's a gravity feed, and I have some air control adjustments on the gun where I can control air pressure. So if you want to splatter back something, you lower the pressure on it so it spits paint. It doesn't mist it out, it spits it out. And I'm looking into that right now. Plus I want some gravity feeds because I can get different. It's straight down gravity feed. The cup is straight over the nozzle,
just smoother, more pure than instead of sucking it up.
don't have to thin it down as much.
Okay.
You don't have to thin your paint down as much and stuff like that. I can do different effects with the gravity.
Okay. But so before we get off of that, if you're just wanting to get into it, maybe throw a couple of colors down on some crankbaits that you sanded down and stuff, like what's a good beginning? I mean, it doesn't have to be a brand or anything, but just what are some of the features that a beginner is looking for?
You really want to get a double action gun. You really want to make sure that it has a flow control valve on it. See, if I take this off of my Iwata right here,
Mm-hmm.
I can adjust my needle
What
from
does the
here.
needle do?
If I slide that out a little bit, no matter what I do when I push the button down, paint's coming out of this gun.
Okay.
The way I have it adjusted now, no paint comes out of my gun unless I move the trigger back.
Okay.
Unless I pull the trigger back, then the paint comes out of the gun. I do that so I can air dry my coats
I got you.
when I'm doing it. So I don't necessarily have a little blow dryer there that I can flash the paint fast with. And I don't have to worry about it as long as I don't pull the trigger
You
back.
ever accidentally had something completely done? You pull the trigger back and we're like, crap.
Yes. Yes, I have.
Like I would do that all the time.
Yes, I have, and it is very when you're first beginning how. What I did when I got my first double action airbrush was I just got a bunch of blank white paper, and I would practice making this smooth lines the same width, little dots, circles where I can connect the circle together. And then I would make little targets on it and point the airbrush at them and see if I can hit the target. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
With it, because what I wanted to do is it's different than when I draw with a pen and a pencil. When I draw with a pen and a pencil, I'm holding it like this.
Like
I
a
go
pen.
on the paper like a pen, and I can see what I'm drawing and I can see where it's at. But when you're airbrushing a lure, let me just grab this one here. When you're airbrushing a lure, okay, if I'm doing the back on the lure, right? I want to make sure that when I hit my lure, I got a straight line across the back, so it's straight and not wavy or not where I miss it and the line goes, partially down the side of the bait. So you want to be accurate. You want to know what's coming out of the tip of the gun and where it's going on the bait when you hit it. So if I put a false eye spot on a bait, what I do is I put the lure in a vise and I rest the gun on my finger like that.
It's a great screenshot right there. That's a screenshot. Don't move for 2 seconds.
And then I just pull the trigger back until I get my false eye spot.
Okay. Let me ask you this. I know this is on the minds of a lot of people. If you listen to BTL, you've seen you've seen some of my drawings. You're very well aware of my lack of ability in drawing. Can you learn how to proficiently do basic designs if you really stink at drawing and don't have spatial awareness and can only do stick figures? This is something that you can do with practice. You're not totally hopelessly.
No, this is all this is. Let me just grab something here.
Okay.
All this is understanding a couple of things. I have a really good example right here that I'm going to show you. If I can't, there it is. Okay.
Are there hooks on those baits?
No.
No, because Frank is diving into a full gallon Ziploc full of lures right now.
I have a lot of lures.
Oh, wow.
I just ran downstairs and grabbed some finished baits. Okay, so here's what it is. So this was a walleye color that I did. So with airbrushing, the only thing you have to do is have a visual of what you want it to look like in the end. Okay. So this particular bait here is pearl white, fluorescent yellow, fluorescent orange, black. Okay. Now I do have I do have metallics in this one, but I don't know if you could see them or not because the
A little
white
bit,
on
yeah.
this blows out.
Yep. Nope.
So
I just caught him.
okay, here's the thing. Okay, it's just like I was talking about earlier. All right, I want to make the dots. Okay, on the bait. So what you have to understand is in order for me to get a bright orange dot on a black dot, I have to make the black dot first. Then I have to make a white dot, and then I have to put the orange down. Or the orange won't be orange over black.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Oh no, I yeah, 100%.
Just how I have the back, my hand is on it. Just how I have the back gradiated into orange and then to fluorescent yellow. I lay the fluorescent yellow down first. Then I lay the fluorescent orange down so I can feather the orange out into the yellow. So it's smooth transition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I do the same thing with the black. I keep the black heavy around the face and feather it out over as I go back.
Mm-hmm.
And basically all I'm doing is I'm sliding the gun from the head, and as soon as I start to get back, I just stop spraying and move my gun up like that. It's like leading a duck when you're duck hunting. You just and let your overspray fall down here to get you these smooth transitions.
Yeah, that's interesting on that. So I'm so glad. You remember well, of course you remember. It was like 2 weeks ago. Bassmaster Classic. Jared Miller was big on day one, and his family was watching him on the overpass.
Mm-hmm.
Well, his dad, big into making, he would cut out, design, whittle, build the bills from scratch, balsa and all sorts of different wood, and then paint them. So I thought, oh yeah, that'll be fun. I'll go in and do that. Well, I end up with this lopsided thing. The first couple of times, it lasted 4 baits for me. And I mean, one of them actually worked, but when it came to the painting part, he has all that stuff understood. It can do these good paint jobs, but he just let me do it. And I was going for a baby walleye with a hint of chartreuse because they had these young walleye in Thunderbird. I thought, I did this big square bill. I'm going to throw it on the dam. It's going to look like a baby walleye. It's going to have a hint of chartreuse on it. It looked like, when I was done, because he just let me do my thing and I didn't understand it. It looked like I'm going to try to explain it. It looked like a toe that had gout that was then dipped in a bowl of like 3-day-old guacamole. Everything was just this weird brownish, greenish, gray hue. And what you're explaining is you have to understand how primary colors interact with each other.
That is 100% correct. Like you mentioned a walleye, and I painted a walleye bandit, but I don't think I have it here. But I do have a perch that I painted. But I don't have the bandit walleye. I actually have two different types of perch painted. Yeah, I don't have the walleye in here. But here, so when you like understanding color. So this is a fluorescent yellow to fluorescent green to a dark blue head, okay? And then I've got white spots with light blue centers in it. I have a pink chin, a white pearl belly that gradiates into nothing over the tail. All right. So knowing that my fluorescent yellow over my chartreuse, my green, okay, I can gradiate that out and make it disappear into the yellow. So what I did was I took my dark blue head and gradiated that out into the green, which made the top of the green darker. You follow me? Because
Yep.
blue and yellow make green.
Yep.
So knowing your primary colors helps a lot. It definitely helps a lot.
Okay.
So I'll show you 2 perch patterns, and I'll show you the differences in them. This is one, and this was in a rogue. Now you see how I have gold marbling between the bars?
Yep.
It's marbled gold between the bars. This is a perch, a yellow perch. I have the orange, two orange fin marks here,
Bright white gut sack.
bright white gut sack, and semi-transparent in the back. It's got blue pearl on it. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe you can.
Every once in a while you'll hit it.
Yeah. So that's one. Now I did a more of a natural perch with actual scales, gold scale pattern on it.
Mm-hmm.
You see the scales versus the marbling.
Yep. You think that makes a difference?
It looks cool. Both of these work equally as well because they're both perch representations. So it looks cool. But if you're designing a perch for a brand and another brand wants a perch, you got to have something different in it.
I got
you. Know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just for that purpose. But so anyhow, so that's that. I probably put those in the wrong bag, but it doesn't matter. So basically what I do is I experiment. So if you go back to the paint thing, the first picture, go back to the very first picture. So earlier I said I went to waterborne paint. So if you scroll to get to the top shelf, well, here, go right where your arrow is right there. We're going to go way off the track here. Okay. From the end of that shelf to where those white vials are, the bottles, all the way to the last black top short bottle, right? Right there, down, right there. Those are all pearls and powder pearls.
I would just like to point out, this is totally going to get flagged by YouTube. We have guns, double action guns, barrels, powder, vials. I'm just saying, there's no way this isn't going to get this is going to have a,
we're talking about
one of those. For accurate information, click here at the bottom of this episode. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off track there. I was just saying, there's all sorts of key words in this one, Frank.
Right. Painting.
All right.
So those are pearls. Now I'll mix those with clear coat so I can make any pearl colors I want. I can mix them, I can match them, I can make them. And this is where a lot of the problem comes in when you're talking about a true custom painted lure to a manufactured bait. This is where your creativity can get you in trouble or out of trouble.
This shelf right here.
Right there. That's the magic. Because with that shelf, I can make things that are never on the market, never before seen, or I can keep it as simple as I want it. The shelf above that is all my water paint.
Holy cats.
There's all kinds of different hues, shades, pearls. The big bottles, you can see a little bit of blue and a little purple on the top right there. Those are Createx Auto Air, and it's blue pearl, purple pearl, gold pearl, red pearl. Each bottle's a different pearlescent. So when I do standard pearls, those are what I use because they're readily available. They're all the same. They're incredibly consistent.
Did you go to school for this?
No, I actually learned it all on the fly.
This seems overwhelming as heck. Like I'm overwhelmed right now, Frank.
It can be. It can be, but it's not. So here's the thing you have to understand with waterborne paint. It's semi-transparent right out of the gate. Okay? So by mixing, by reducing your paint, you make it a little bit clearer. I can add clear base, which is nothing more than clear paint, to make it even more transparent. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things you keep in mind when you're creating, and you see that little sticker on the wall where your arrow is.
Yeah, it's like a Post-it note or something that you.
Yeah, I made an ivory. Okay, I made an ivory color. It's a cross between. It's like a high vis ivory, and so that's my formula on what I need to mix in what quantity to keep recreating that particular
So is that like an
ivory.
afternoon, a rainy, cold day, and you're like, I need this ivory, and you sit down and you mix for hours, and you finally hit one that you're like, this is what I like, and every time you make a different one, you're noting how much you're putting in to each to mix it, and then you get what you like,
Yeah,
and boom, now you've got an ivory.
right. So if I create a color like that ivory right there
I
is
feel like that also might be a flag word.
ivory.
Yeah.
I didn't say I'm getting it off of an elephant, but let's just go there right now. Okay. We said nothing about poaching ivory. So,
Oh, you can't say that.
so
You're gonna get an hour and a half to listen to this show before it's taken off YouTube.
we're
Continue.
talking
I'm
about
sorry. I keep
painting.
interrupting.
We're talking about painting. So here's what I did. I when I was painting with solvents,
Mhm.
I made this ivory with solvent-based paint. I could never duplicate it again with waterborne. And it was driving me crazy because I didn't want to pull the solvents out just to spray my ivory because it's a whole nother process. So I
Yeah.
was getting kind of, so I did one night. I went downstairs and I made a spray card of my solvent based ivory and let it dry. Excuse me. Hold on a second.
Well, vodka tonic there for the
Yeah, sure.
morning.
It was just why not? We're tobacco, firearms, and alcohol. Why not? So, so I made a spray card with my solvent-based ivory. Then I got colors that were very similar. How I made it with solvent.
Mm-hmm.
I got my waterborne colors that were similar, and I started one drop at a time. One drop of this, one drop of that, one drop of this. Mixed it up, looked at it, put a brush line on the paper, wasn't even close. So I knew with the solvent base that I had more white in it than anything. So I started out with more white, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of flesh tone or tan, basically. And then I started and I started and I started and I started. Then I found out what I finally got it. So I had little spray out cards of 15 different versions until I finally matched it. Once I matched it, I already knew what my mix ratio was. So then I mixed a bottle of it. I made a whole bottle with the ratio. And that's how I can maintain consistency in something that I make up. I can keep consistency in it, and I write down all the formulas so I have them all.
And then over time, you don't have to experiment because you're
No,
like, you know what color it is, so you just go mix, 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 and it's
100%.
you're
It's
almost building your tackle box.
you are you're building your painting arsenal.
Yeah. But it's
Okay,
like it starts out with your square bill box. You've got a couple in there, and then you got a couple more, and then you learn there's some that are this and this and this, and it's the same thing with painting. And then before you
right.
know it, you've got your favorites and the ones that you use for certain stuff. And instead of looking at 1,000 different colors like there are on the top shelf and going, "Wow, that looks intimidating," you have your
You have it. I
yeah.
have a 3-ring notebook that's probably 3 inches thick with paint formulas, things I mixed, pearls that I made. Um, you know, so over the course of time, now keep in mind, this doesn't happen in a week. This is over the course of time. Okay. Speaking about square bills, I, as everybody knows, I love the Norman Fat Boy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually made some that I have for my personal stash that's not in production. Um, just because of the logistics of it mostly. But here's what I did because I'm always experimenting with things. I got, when you go and you buy an oven, there's a piece of aluminum tape over the glass of the oven when you first get it. And then you take it off, you clean the glass, and everything's good. I found where you could buy that aluminum tape. So I made foil-sided Fat Boys.
Oh, that looks awesome.
Right, where I put foil on the sides of them. And
And
so
that's from the oven.
yeah, it's from an oven.
Are you a fan of Breaking Bad?
No. I am actually
like,
not.
I feel
like why are you always going down the wormhole, dude?
I'm just saying there's a lot of mixing, a lot of experimenting.
Exactly, a lot of weights and measures.
Yeah.
So
wanted to ask that question.
So this is all about creativity, because you started this when you said, do you
Yep.
have to be a good artist to draw to do this? No, you just have to be creatively thinking of things. So I looked at, how can I foil side a bait? And so I just said, well, hey, this stuff is self-adhesive on one side. I can do it. So then here, so if you look at the bait, you see the scale pattern in the foil, right? I'm like, how in the hell am I going to do that? So I took my X-Acto knife, because they have that part of the handle that's rough, so the knife doesn't slip out of your hand.
Is that called like a thatching or some sort of
So I took the X-Acto knife apart, got that cylinder of thatching, and I laid the foil down flat before I peeled it off, and I rolled that thing across the foil.
Really?
To make the scales.
Huh.
So you just have to think a little bit. You know what I mean? That's all it requires. It's just a little bit of thought.
I mean, I feel like if you went into Hobby Lobby, your head just explodes because there's so many options. Like, of what you can use non-traditionally for baits. Like Joann Fabrics.
Oh, dude, I'm like a stalker in those places. As long as we're going to get flagged, let's go all the way. So yeah, because I walk in there and I walk around just to look, and that people are always like, "Can I help you, sir? Can I help you, sir?" And I go, "No, I'm looking," and I look at everything in there, because you find things, if you're thinking, like a lot of my scale patterns and stuff are from fabrics. Like some of my marbling patterns are from ribbons. You know what I mean? Like here, if you go back to that original picture that we looked at, the first one, picture 1.
This is still picture 1.
Yeah, but I'm on the screen, not picture 1.
Oh, yeah, I could see it on me. I'm literally the only one who could see it right
now. So if you go back to picture 1 and you go to the bottom shelf all the way at the end, you'll see 3 rolls of ribbon.
Oh, right there.
Yes. Those are all different ribbon with marbling patterns on them.
No joke.
Swear to God, those came from Joann Fabric.
I still have no idea how you use them.
I take them out in a sheet as long as the lure is, and they're not solid ribbons. They're marbled. They have holes all over them.
Oh.
And then I wrap it around the bait. And then I spray my marble pattern. And I got those because one Christmas I got a gift, and it was wrapped in something like that. So I took the whole string of ribbon that the gift was wrapped on and used that for my marbling, and could never find it anymore. So I go, I'll just go to a fabric shop. I bet they sell ribbon material.
So there's no like what is it, like Jan's Netcraft? There's no like, this is not like a website that you go to that has all of this stuff readily available. Everyone that's doing this at a high end has their own little weird ways to do it, and that's what makes them good.
Yeah. Now there's some places that actually make great stencils.
Mm-hmm.
For airbrushing models and stuff, like Anarchy.
Okay.
Makes great stencils.
But I guess if it exists, and then everybody can do it. The thing that you're trying to do is make custom and unique, so you have to think outside the box.
I always do. I look at everything.
What is this big bright box right here
that's my airbrush box. That's what I paint in. That big thing is the vent fan. So I wanted a strong vent fan. So what I did was I got a 2-horse bathroom fan and built my own vent fan and pushed it out the window, and I boxed the window in with wood cut a circle hole in the window above the airbrush, and that's how I vent my booth. Now, theoretically, the best vent should be directly behind you, directly in behind
Mm-hmm.
where you're painting, not up on top. But the
And then
only
what
I
kind of
could
lighting is in there? That's very important because do you have to have natural or fluorescent or what? I mean, doesn't it
that's
look
just
different?
yeah, that well, it's different because that's LED lighting.
Okay, LED. That was what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's LED, so it's pretty bright. Um, Fluorescent is tough because it changes the look of the colors. Uh, the actually what I'm finding now with the LED lighting is it's very bright. So when I'm painting transparent, the bait always looks transparent, and then when I pull it out of the airbrush booth, it's too heavy because
It's getting way more light in there
it's
than it
getting way
is.
more light through it. So I think it's more transparent than it is. So actually, what I'll do if I'm painting transparent colors is I'll put sheets of tracing paper underneath there to dim the light, to dull it
No
up.
joke.
Yeah.
Uh, what
So,
else in this picture number one? We got 5 of these things to
well,
get
I
through.
could show you something cool in that picture.
Yeah, hit me with it.
Go up to the top, that little bag on the wall,
I have
very
too much
top,
fun moving this around.
right there.
Right there.
That
Um,
bag right there is that's the actual plastic worm. That's a Zoom old monster that I made my first classic. I caught a 5.8 last cast of the day. I caught a 5.8 on that worm, and that is the actual worm I fished.
would you tack it up there with like a 6-inch framing nail?
No, it's a drywall screw.
Oh.
It wasn't made. The drywall screw wasn't to hang that up there.
Oh, it was up there already.
I was
Okay.
hanging airbrushes up there.
Well, that was cool foresight though to realize that like, hey, that's something I might want to.
Yeah, because I caught the fish and I had so little time to get back, I didn't even unhook them. I just threw them in the live well, shut the live well lid, and laid the rod between my legs and flew back to the ramp.
That's
I
awesome.
I didn't take that worm out of the fish until I checked in. So I guess we could go to picture 2, I guess.
All right.
We're going around the room now. Now we're going to get into some crazy stuff here.
Some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
You're so far out of my element here. It's not even funny. Like I this is all a whole new world.
It's a whole. I'm not going to say.
That's what I was going to try to start to do.
Yeah. So the
So is
other
this
day.
the same? So this is the booth, the same booth on the opposite side.
That is correct.
Okay.
So now we were talking about hackle feathers and select hackle. Most of what you see there, except for the bottom shelf, is all hackle feathers. Hackle and guinea. All those feathers up there, all different colors.
That's crazy. That kind of looks like the opening scenes of 50 Shades of Grey.
And then on the bottom, some of the fur on the bottom is coyote. Some of it's rabbit, some of it's groundhog.
What and that? So each, I'm assuming, depending on what hair or fur or whatever you're using, some is hollow, some is denser, some is coarse,
Correct.
some is soft. It all reacts differently and behaves differently.
Correct.
When wet.
That's 100% accurate. So if I'm tying flies and I want certain properties, I have to use certain types of fur or certain types of feathers.
So what's that? Is that
That's
deer?
coyote.
Coyote. What is good about coyote?
That's the tail feathers in the coyote. They're very long and very bulky, but they teardrop really nice in the water. So that's actually the first time I ever tied with coyote. My brother had shot a couple and I took the tails because I wanted to see how they tied, and I wound up tying tarpon flies out of those. So I can make big, long tarpon flies because they're very long fibers, so I can get good long streamers out.
So you're literally catching tarpon on coyote.
Yes.
That's kind of cool.
Here, I can probably show you one of them. I'm sure I know I better have them in here. It's hard to keep track because I haven't been able to saltwater fly fish in a while. Okay, that's definitely not them. See, these are all my little crab and shrimp patterns. Oh, the crabs and shrimp.
Dude, I had no idea that you were this adept at tying flies as well.
If it has fins and eyeballs, I want to catch it.
I mean,
I
that's
am,
like really good.
thanks, man. I'm absolutely addicted to fishing at every level possible.
Yeah, but how do you fish professionally and know how to do all this stuff? Like, this is
Time.
impressive.
Okay, my tarpon flies are not here with the coyote, so we're not. I'm not going to be able to show them
Well,
to you.
what's in that box? Can you show that box?
Yeah, I have tarpon flies in this. Most of these are rabbit. I do have some of them are coyote type. So these are my tarpon flies.
For like you, or for you sell
For
them,
me.
or
No, for me. So here's
wait, you
here's a
fly fish for tarpon?
I fly fish for everything.
I
Here's the tarpon toad. This is a very famous fly. It's called
like
the
that's a
tarpon toad.
known.
Yeah, it's a known fly. This is done out of marabou and
What do they think
synthetic.
that is? It's bright. It looks like Oscar the Grouch on a bad hair day.
Yeah, so you were talking about marabou the other day. Well, this is what marabou looks like dry. But when it's wet, it thins down like an eel. Okay. And then this is synthetic. So what I do with the eyeballs, you adjust the eyeballs for rate of sink or neutrality. So if you have fish suspending in the water column, it's just like fish and jerkbaits. If you have fish suspending in the water column, you use a neutral buoyancy so it suspends. If you have fish relating closer to the bottom, you use slightly heavier eyeballs so it goes down to the bottom. And it's no different. So
Wait a second. So you just showed that fly, right?
the tarpon toad, yes.
Right. Is that from that stuff right there?
No. That's just a hackle. That's just a chartreuse hackle feather.
I thought I was putting two and two together there.
No, but here's a coyote collar. I tied this coyote collar on this bunny tarpon fly. That's the coyote collar on the bunny, and this is a bunny tail.
Wow.
And this actually rides hook point down.
So this whole section is more. You don't really use this in the bass world.
No, but I do tie some. I used to tie a lot of my bass jigs with bear hair and then rubber around the bear hair.
I would assume bear hair is very buoyant and hollow for warmth.
Bear hair actually teardrops and looks really nice around.
Like a leech. A leech, is that what you're impersonating with bear hair?
Yes, but on a jig, it just undulates around your plastic chunk. So your rubber flares out, the bear hair undulates around the chunk, and then the chunk thing moves.
So in all reality, you could be driving down the road with a pair of loppers, tree trimmers in the back of your car, hop out, chop a tail off of a raccoon, chop a tail off of a squirrel, go home, and an hour later have flies.
Well, the problem with that theory is anything that's dead on the side of the road has an odor factor to it. But yeah, I mean, I tie everything. I have Clouser minnows here that I tied. Here's a shrimp pattern. I don't know if you guys will see this real good. It's all synthetic. This fly is 100% synthetic.
Is that a tarpon deal? That's a pretty
good this is speckled trout and redfish.
Okay.
So it looks like a little shrimp in the water with an egg sac, by the way. That orange spot's the egg sac.
Looks just like one.
Yeah. And so that's what I fish for speckled trout and redfish. And I have tons of variations of these things in all different colors, every color imaginable. But you know, here we're talking synthetic. Let me show you the difference here.
What is synthetic made out of? What is synthetic made out of?
Not natural.
I know, but what kind of material is it? Is it like plastic or is
it? It's kind of like a soft plastic. Okay, so here's a synthetic chartreuse and white with gold crystal flash. Synthetic. It's very sparse. You can almost see through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fantastic speckled trout color. I kill them on it. So I found that sometimes the water conditions get a little murky. So I tied one bucktail, chartreuse and white, same exact fly, bucktail. So sometimes based on watercolor and conditions, the bucktail works better than the synthetic. But I have them both because you never know what you're going to
Just like your
encounter.
jerk baits.
Right. You never know what you're going to encounter. Just like Speed End Junior versus the Speed End. You got to have them both because you don't know what you're going to encounter. And so here's how easy I make it for myself because I can't stand not to be organized. So my chartreuse and white, bucktail, and synthetic.
Oh, you're ready to go smoke some trout on that.
Right. So if I go, I know I'm going. I have probably 7 of these double containers like this. I just grab them and go. And then when I'm out there fly fishing, I just put a half a dozen of them.
How long does it take you to do a whole box like that? You've got 1, 2, 3, you got 20. You've probably got 50 in there.
Not long at all.
Like a day,
there's
couple hours.
I can tie both of these boxes. I can tie them in a day easily, easily. And so basically, that's how this room was actually born for fly tying. I had guys back in the day when I was fishing Bassmasters, some guys locally that would travel and they would go to. You could flip to the next one if you want.
No, there's a couple other things in here. What are these hoops for?
Okay, those are mesh patterns that I use for scales that I got at a fabric shop, and those hoops are for, believe it or not, needlepoint. So I stretch the fabric through there. So if I only want to lay back scales on them or just on the side, I don't have to wrap the entire bait. I can just hold that up and blow scales on them.
And then
those are 2 perfect 10s that are.
Is that secret color?
Well, yeah, but it's only halfway done, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, well I won't zoom in on those then.
It's halfway done. That's my last color I'm working on for the bass colored rogues right there.
All right. Well. All right, number 3. Now we're getting into the Joann Fabrics type of stuff.
Okay, so now you're seeing Arctic fox, rabbit, bucktail, and synthetics.
Peacock.
There's some peacock feathers up there.
Did you get that from a live peacock at the zoo?
That actually did
chase that sucker down.
That actually did come from a live peacock, and I cannot tell you the story on how they became in my possession.
You tackled a peacock at the zoo, Frank?
I wrestled them down. I said, "This is only going to hurt for a minute."
Okay.
So all the fibers above the peacock, well, actually, the little bit of set below the peacock and above is all synthetic.
Okay.
Enrico Puglisi fur, fish fur, Enrico Puglisi fur, and fish fur. There's all a bunch of different names for this stuff.
Okay.
And then the long strips you see hanging down, those are rabbit zonker strips.
Okay. We doing the next one already?
Yeah, let's do the next one.
All right.
But I had guys when I was fishing Bassmasters, I had guys, they travel all over the place. They fish for peacock bass and stuff. So a guy said, "Hey, can you tie me some peacock bass flies?" So I go, "Yeah, sure." So I wound up tying him a bunch of flies to fish for peacocks with. Some of them were weighted, some of them weren't. This is barred hackle, but you notice on this one I used full hackle. I didn't use sparse hackle.
And hackle is
the feathers, the back feathers.
The back feathers.
Schlappen feathers. These are schlappen feathers, the back ones. And then the rest of the fly is tied in with bucktail. But he wanted some neutral with neutral buoyancy, some that sank. So this one here is neutral, and then I tied lead eyes on the ones that
Okay.
he needed to sink in
I'm
the
guessing
water
it wasn't
column.
Tommy Biffle. I don't see him fly fishing.
No. So yeah,
All right. Now we're
not
getting back into some more. There's a bunch of
in,
stuff going on in
right
this
now
picture.
now we're starting to get into other things. Now that I've got Australian possum, I've got all kinds of crazy stuff there. A lot of what you're going to see
Where's the Australian possum?
right by your arrow. Go to the black mask. Okay, all that's Australian. That's Australian
Oh, so you have an
possum.
Australian possum section.
Yes.
What's
So
fantastic about them?
the way Australian possum fur breeds in the water, I tie some amazing steelhead flies with that stuff.
Okay, that's kind of your baby. There's the steelhead flies. Obviously, if you've seen the
Yeah, that's how I started.
Zona's fishing show that he did with you, you took him steelhead fishing. Still a great watch. Still available on Zona's channel. Just Google Frank Scalish Mark Zona.
I'm so glad he didn't get rid of that. The upper corner of that, you can see a bunch of my fly reels. They're encased.
Oh, up here.
Yeah. T-bores and bowers mostly.
What is that thing?
That is a rotary. So if I do a bait, if I tie a bait that needs a little bit of time to cure, I put it on that and it rotates. Or if I'm going to tie guides on a fishing rod, I pull the center pin out of that rotary and I put the handle of the fishing rod in there, and then it rotates the fishing rod. So my guides, the epoxy I use on the guides is nice and smooth.
Can we show this stuff here, or should I zoom in?
Yeah, that's the those are some of the original versions of the Speed N before the Speed N was actually made.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, in fact, I have two original versions here in my hand.
Hold on. I think if we had done this show 3 months ago, would not have happened. As far as the ability to click and
I know you're killing it, dude. You're killing it. So these are the first two original prototypes. Well, actually, these are the first two working original prototypes of the Norman Speed N and the Speed N Junior. Now, these are just the Speed N, not the Junior. So if you notice here on this one, there's no marks on the bill. But on this one, I have a mark on the bill.
Yep.
The little dot on
little
the
red
bill.
dot in the middle.
This was the first bait I got to run exactly how I wanted it. This bait was super close, but it didn't hunt as good as this one. This bait was close, but this is the money bait. So this was the prototype that I sent to Norman to have made.
Well, you cut that the shape of the bill and everything, and actually whittled carved that bait out and everything.
No, this is a deep little end body.
Okay, I got you.
Cut the bill off of the bait.
I got you.
Find the right angle that I want.
I tie weighting, bill, angle,
everything. Yeah.
Right. Okay, and then said this is right.
This is right. So this is the one that we modeled them all after right here.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that cool?
And I have in a shadow box or something.
I have 5 or 6 of these.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the one that was the one.
I like that color. That color is the color that I caught my 9-pound 4-ouncer when I was 17 years old on a Bandit 200.
Oh yeah, this is a good color. This is a good color. It's actually a subdued version of Diamond Craw, is what it is. The only difference between this and Diamond Craw is on Diamond Craw, they make the belly pearl yellow instead of flat. They made it pearl.
All right, let's
still a dynamic color. Very good color.
Dynamic. All right, let's add this back to this room. So you're going through all this stuff. We've got a bunch of, what is all the...
That's all for steelhead flies. That's crystal flash. It's all the shiny stuff that you put in a steelhead.
And then I'm assuming these are all of the threads that you use to tie with.
Correct.
Is that a special fly tying thread, or is it literally just thread?
No, it's fly tying thread.
Okay.
Above the fly tying thread is what's called dubbing. That's how you make bug bodies and stuff like that.
There's an old school spool of Fireline.
Yes, it is an old school because that's 50-pound fire line. So when I make articulated flies, I loop the fire line. And so I will put double hooks on there, and my flies will move and be articulated like a jointed crankbait.
So is this where a lot of you sit here and a lot of you have? It looks like you have notes and designs, and you're grabbing a bunch of little stuff. This is like your creative little corner.
Right. And here's the deal with that, the way it is. That's exactly how it is right this second, because I have paint formulas written down for perfect tens, paint formulas for Rebel Raiders, because that's what I'm working on now.
Yeah.
I had designed a Lindy bait, so I have some prototypes laying there, but you can't see them because they're underneath a piece of paper.
Right. Yeah, I don't think we can. Yeah, you can't read or see any of that stuff. Like I said, I don't want to put your next creation on here, and then you're like, oh crap.
No, I made sure I double checked before.
All right.
I took those and took stuff out.
Good stuff.
And so that's really. I think there's one more, and the little box on the bottom is all my stencils, and I put all my stencils that I make in there, and the stencils that I got from Anarchy, which came from United Kingdom, and I got those a couple weeks ago, and I'm so excited because I'm doing some crazy stuff now, real crazy. All right,
number 5, our last
one.
I've enjoyed listening to this. Have you enjoyed sharing it?
Yeah, it's kind of wild, dude. I mean, I painted over 300 lure bodies for the bait companies.
I mean, it has to make sense to you, but it looks. I feel almost like the people who walk into one of those tackle stores and go, "How do you know what to pick? It's just so overwhelming." And you're like, "Oh, well, it's easy. There's this and this and this. It all makes perfect sense." But then you get out of your element in this stuff, and you're like, just in feathers alone, I was overwhelmed, and that wasn't having to do with the 20 years of painting 30 years.
No, and dude, and I'm telling you right now, that's why I told you that the fly shops, they get crazy when I show up, because
all right, so this is just an angle, the other side of the other angle of your.
It's the rest of the L-shaped desk.
Yeah.
So I have, my tools, everything I need tool wise, the long perpendicular little plastic containers, that's all hooks and lead eyes for fly tying.
Where's right here?
There, yeah. So it's all saltwater hooks, freshwater hooks, nymph hooks, streamer hooks, lead-eyed weights, bead chain eyes.
Look at all those different tools that you have up there too, different pliers and needle nose and angles and
everything. Yeah.
Is that a bob in there that those are on?
Bodkins, yeah.
Bodkins, that's close.
Yeah, a bunch of those.
What is
scissors. That is just something from a tackle box.
Yeah.
I'm working on something else.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay. It's great.
There's an old school king shad?
Yeah, dude, right on the money.
Yeah. The jointed king shad.
Yes, right on the money.
What are all these things? They look like little pieces of cereal.
Yeah, it's sucker spawn. Sucker spawn, and it's a fly I tied. It's sucker spawn, and then there's glow eggs and sucker spawn. That's what those are. And then the flies that you're looking at right now, those are kilowatts
for
steelhead.
And then this, let me see if I can guess. This is a very grainy picture that I'm circling, but it appears as though you are wading in the surf and you are fly fishing, and that is about a 26-inch snook.
That, dude, you are right on the money. Holy smokes. You are so on it, man. Let's see. Is this other picture in there? Hold on. Okay, so you can't see it because it's behind the box of body braid, but try to zoom in on that. Behind that body braid is a picture of me from my first classic that Yum did. But it's covered up with the snook and the body braid.
That's a bummer. Is that a Hildebrandt deal?
Oh, it's Hildebrandt's. You know it is. You know it is.
This is just, I like this segment. Frank takes a picture and we just zoom in and break it down.
Isn't it fun? So here, so look at the crab shell up there on the top shelf.
Right here?
Right there. So zoom in on that crab shell. So that's a crab shell, but holding the crab shell on there is a spine from a stingray. Okay. The spine from the stingray wound up in my ankle when I was fly fishing. And so I saved it.
That had to hurt.
It hurt more than anything ever imaginable. It hurt bad.
You stepped on it and it whacked you?
I was in a hurry because I was hammering the speckled trout, and I was in a hurry because the tide was going out fast and I wanted to get to the next point of eelgrass. So instead of shuffling my feet, I flip and ran, dude, and I stepped on this stingray and he got me in the ankle.
What is this orange thing? I meant to ask you that in the last photo.
That is an old clock radio that my daughter had, and I needed a clock in there, and I wanted a radio, and so I just took it from her toy box.
Okay, I thought maybe that was some weird like curing thing.
Oh wait, upper right corner. I think there's another Yum thing from the classic. I mean left corner.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Yeah, there it is. 2002. Me, Timmy Horton. I can't tell who else is in there, but it's me, Timmy Horton, and.
Oh, that looks like the picture from the black tie dinner at the classic.
No, that's actually probably my dad from my wedding.
Oh, okay. It's just a tuxedo. I figured
yeah,
I'd take
one of the very few pictures I have of my dad. But yeah,
dude, that's very cool. Anything else we're missing in here?
Nah.
It's very overwhelming, but I mean, just having kind of gotten to know how you meticulously organize your stuff. It's very
organized,
very meticulous, very organized. Like you cannot do what you do without being meticulously organized.
No, you have to be 100% organized. The funny thing is that desktop never looks like that. It's always clean. But I'm in the middle of a lot of things right now. And so
it is interesting. Obviously, big hairs become a big thing we've seen on the ledges over the past 6-7 years. I mean, it's always been around. It's always big bucktail jigs. I mean, if you look at a lot of major companies, their best selling products are bucktail jigs because it's so, saltwater. Everything eats a jig, bucktail jig, or a hair jig in saltwater, and then striper fishing and now in the bass fishing world, the preacher jig and stuff. But still, as a whole, and we talked about a couple shows ago, you went in with the vise and fly tying, the treble hook and all that. I feel like hair is underutilized, specifically in the largemouth market. I know that a lot of hair jigs are used for smallmouth, and you have the fighter fly and all sorts of the little black marabou and small jig for that. But as a whole, like a guy in Oklahoma, Alabama, Florida, hair and feathers are not really not really used. And if you think about it, it is probably the most natural medium to work with. And it's kind of shocking how few offerings there are.
Yeah, it is. I mean, realistically, with animal fur, feathers, etc., your color palette is limited. You're not going to get a lot of pearls, so you'd have to add crystal flash or hackle flash in there.
I guess float and fly too.
Yeah, the float and fly, dude. I used to tie some dynamite float.
Have you ever tried crappie jigs?
Oh yeah,
like custom crappie jigs.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we might have to talk.
Dude, I gave my float and flies to a friend of mine's father. He moved down to Florida, and he's like, we catch a lot of crappie down here. Do you got anything I can use? And I said, yeah, try some of these. So I actually gave him my float and flies, and he would pound the crappies out down there. Yeah. Pound them.
I think it's only right that we
What are you up to? You're up
That's
to.
it. That's the Australian
That's the.
possum, in case you were wondering.
Now they're on the endangered species list.
Hey. There you go.
Yeah,
That is what you were fishing with.
that's right. To get a full pelt is a little bit of money. That's so funny, man.
I think we got to edit with that. Anything else? Thank you for the tour. I know that's that place down there is probably pretty near and dear to your heart, and a lot of cool stuff has come out of there.
Oh yeah, a lot of there's been a lot of fish catching stuff. And here, look, painting. We were talking about painting crankbaits. I'm actually working on colors for Scottsboro right now for the swim
Oh, okay.
baits. So here's what the blank swim bait bodies.
So you can paint. Wait, okay. So you can paint plastic, or you have to pour it.
No, you can paint it.
Really?
Yeah, there's a process which I won't get into, but there's a process. So I get blank swim bait bodies, and I'm working on those. And I'll be honest with you, this is my first go around at painting soft bodied swim baits, and I actually have some painted downstairs, but I can't
show them.
I can't show those yet. I can only show you things that went into production or are never going to be in production. So I have to be careful on what I'm, actually what I'm showing.
Or else people with suits show up at your door and you're never heard from again.
That's right. I'll be found way of the elephant.
You go to the land of discontinued rogues and
that's right.
Speed traps.
That's exactly right. I'll be locked in a closet somewhere.
You'll be like, there they all are.
Exactly. But yeah, I've done over 300 different colors. Not painted 300 of the same color, 300 different colors.
What is your favorite color? Pick your favorite color of all time that you've ever painted. If you had not to catch fish with, just your favorite color that you've just been like, you know what? That is my finest work.
Color 7.
Really?
Color 7 means a lot to me.
You don't have to placate.
I'm not. Color 7 means a lot to me. As a color that I never intended to make or catch a fish on. It means a lot to me. There's some colors that I have painted that are my favorite colors on earth to fish with. And they are in my personal stash.
Oh, they're not publicly available?
No.
By your choice or just?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. I'm not going to say it's not going to be available because it is going to be available.
I think they need a lure net Frank stash.
Well, it's going to be available, but it's not right at the moment. That's as far as colors that are on the market today that I've painted. Evu is one of my favorites. There's a couple of the new bomber colors that I absolutely love.
Let me ask you this. Are there new colors to be made? Is there an Alabama rig color out there? You know what I'm saying? Like, or is it, for lack of a better term, saturated already? It would seem incredibly difficult to sit down and come up with a color that is unique these days.
It's very difficult. I play around with pearls and transparent colors because I can overlay to create an effect. And that's how it's got to be done today. It's all on the effect, how you want it to look. A shad is a shad. You know what I mean? But by how you overlay pearls and how it reflects the sunlight is what makes one shad pattern different than another.
Well, I know it's very technical, but I also know that the vast majority of fishermen love two things: new colors and naming colors.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Those are the two things. You got people that just sit there and look at the colors and then coming up with the names. That's kind of like that's like, I don't know why, but it just gets all the bass fishing guys going.
Yeah, it does. And here's the funny thing is, like, I make up names for every color I do. A lot of the names I make up, well, not a lot of them, only a handful really haven't been able to be used because of copywriting and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. There's creative things you can do with color names, but like in my opinion, when it comes to jig skirt colors or soft plastic colors, you have to almost call them what they are.
Yep.
Because a non-visual, like here, if a guy's watching today's show or listening, not watching, listening, and I call, let's say I make up a name, I'm going to call it muddy blue, and really it's green pumpkin with blue flake. If I called it muddy blue, nobody would know what that meant. Nobody would know what it is. So in soft plastics, you would call it green pumpkin blue fleck.
I got you.
You know in a nanosecond what that color is. There's no guessing about it.
But like, so I'm looking on here at Harvest Moon in the deep little N. That'd be really hard to describe.
You couldn't describe it. And here, I made that color. That's another one of my favorite colors. I made that color because I wanted the blue pearl on the shoulder, and I wanted a dark olive black back on it. And the side of that bait is my ivory color.
Oh, really?
Yes. The side of that bait is my ivory color. And the belly of that bait is white. And so I wanted that because that ivory color reflects really good in not super clear water, but it also fishes good in clean water. That's a really good color because in off-color water, it's vibrant. In clear water, it's not as vibrant because you're getting more of the true color out in the clear water. So that's why I made Harvest Moon. Harvest Moon's another one of my favorite colors.
Picked a good color then randomly.
You did, actually. That's one of my favorite Fat Boy colors is Harvest Moon.
All right, what else we got?
I'm thinking, man. We went through a lot of stuff.
We did. Are we cueing the music already? I think, yeah, well, already. We're an hour and a half in.
Yeah, we better.
I think thank you for the tour.
You got the tour.
That was awesome.
The creative den. The den of creativity.
I like that. The den of creativity on the 60th episode of Day 4. We will be back live next Thursday for show 61. Thanks for hanging out with Frank in his basement in the den of creativity today. Have a good one.
Adios, guys.